He booms it away, and we're underway. End over end kick. Solano takes it at the 5-yard line on the right side, across the 10 to the 15, now cuts to the middle, to the 20. Has some room to run. 25, 30, down the sideline, all the way to the 40, across the 50. He's got room to the 20, and he's going to walk in for a Fordham touchdown.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Quarterback. I'm DJ Sixman. Well, folks, the Fordham Rams are 5-0 for the first time since 1988. And when you travel on the road in the FCS, it's never easy, especially when you go 300 miles away from home. The Rams, trailing in the fourth quarter 2017, get the job done, 38-20 the final. We'll have Coach Moorhead to talk about it right now. We'll have the players, Brian Wetzel to Bucky Jones Jr. But first, and of course, we'll have Joel Rodriguez. But first, I want to welcome in my color man, Nick Lagerifo. Nick, it was a hard-fought victory for the Rams, but they got it done over time.
Yeah, it was a real quality character win for this Rams team on the road in a hostile environment, playing a deceptively good team. They took James Madison onto the ropes a couple of weeks before they played Fordham, but a great come-from-behind victory for Fordham, and now we move ahead to Lehigh this week.
With that, we welcome in the head coach, Joe Moorhead. Coach, 11 career victories for you now. It certainly wasn't easy against St. Francis, but you did enough to win. What was the key for you in the fourth quarter?
The key was, just coming together offensively, defensively, and special teams-wise and finding a way to win the game. We talked after the game about not every game in the season won't go perfectly. You're not going to play your best offensively, defensively, and special teams-wise in all 12 games of the regular season. And there were periods of the game where we struggled on offense to move the ball and periods during the game where we struggled to stop the run. But at the end of the day, despite those inadequacies, we found a way to, dig down and persevere and pull the game out in the fourth quarter. So I was very proud of our guys for that.
And Coach, you guys started this game out with a bang, returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Jorge Solano, freshman, impacting the game. How big is it to have a guy like him back there for kickoff returns?
It's huge. He's a very good, very talented player. Excellent quickness, excellent change of direction, and obviously you have to have a little fearlessness when you're returning kicks and having everyone charging down at you like that. And Coach Lusky does a great job coordinating our special teams, and we kind of had a feeling that he was going to break one sooner or later. He'd been close at a couple different opportunities, and we ran a little counter there, and then they did a great job blocking for him, and he kind of didn't have much to do after the initial 20 yards, but outrun everyone to the end zone, so it was a great job.
And let's take a look at that highlight, Coach, because Jorge Solano's been such a dynamic player for you this year, Division I baseball recruit, and just to see that speed finally come to fruition and to start the game off like that too. So let's go to the highlight. So certainly we weren't expecting it in the broadcast booth, but Solano, he gets it here, and just take us through the play, Coach.
Yeah, he starts, and it's a counter, so we want to start the return to the right, then we bring it back to the left, and the guys did a good job sealing it to the right-hand side, and then just giving them an escort down the left-hand sideline, and the rest kind of took care of itself. And we have a significant number of true freshmen that are playing, and Bam, as his nickname is, he'll have an opportunity to contribute for us as a receiver as well. But it's special teams are a great opportunity for some of the true freshmen to kind of cut their teeth and get used to the speed of the game and contribute in the third of the game.
No doubt about it. And Coach, in that fourth quarter, Michael Neiberg certainly stepped up. He was sacked 3 times earlier in the game, but just to see him come up clutch in that moment, what did it mean to you? He came with you from UConn. Just talk about his maturation process this season.
No, Michael's done a tremendous job, and I think the key thing with his play up to this point in the season and his continued development is the ability to make plays and create things with his feet when the play breaks down, and still do that while avoiding negative plays. So he's shown a tremendous ability to do that. I believe he has 12 touchdowns passing and a few more running, and only 1 interception with a couple fumbles. So he obviously is a guy that can make plays when the game's on the line, and has done a great job moving our offense.
This was kind of an interesting game for your program. Not a lot of people knew what to expect with this St. Francis team. Kind of a difficult opponent to face on the road in a hostile environment. You guys had the lead early, then you lost it early in the fourth quarter. How much does this say about the character of your team to come back in a game like this?
I think it was a great opportunity for our team to deal with some adversity. I think we talk about 2 things: handling prosperity and handling adversity, and obviously we didn't handle prosperity very well. We were jumped up 14-0 and then kind of let our foot off the gas a little bit, and kind of sputtered around for a few quarters, and really had to find a way to win the game. I mean, we were down 20-17 with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and that touchdown drive that we had there at the beginning of the fourth quarter really kind of propelled us to get ahead. Defense got a stop. We got another score, and obviously Brian Wetzel had a big punt return as well. So every game's not going to go as according to script, and there's going to be times where you're going to have to, dig down and find a way to win. And I thought, against a very good, well-coached football team with a tremendous running back and a good defensive game plan, I thought, our kids, showed a lot of character in that game.
And Coach, going off that point, obviously your defense didn't have the best game in the world.
Yeah.
Kyle Harbridge nearly runs for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. What was he doing that was so effective, and why did your guys have such a hard time stopping him?
They make a commitment to run the football, and they do a lot of different variations of gap schemes. They run the power, they run the counter, they run some things out of Wildcat. And when they're running the ball that many times and they have so much of an emphasis on it in their game plan, you have to stack 8 or 9 people to the box to stop the run. And the good part about that is when you have all those people in there, you have enough numbers to stop it. And the bad part is if one person misses a tackle, you could see the result. But at the end of the day, I'm not as concerned about the amount of yards as I am the amount of points allowed. So I mean, it's not fantasy football. I mean, we're not dealing with yards. So to me, success on defense is predicated upon scoring defense, explosions allowed, and turnovers created. And I think our defense has done a great job with that throughout the season.
Okay, Coach, moving to the offensive side of the ball, what was the adjustments that you guys made to turn it around finally in the second half of this one?
We struggled a little bit with some pass protection stuff in the first half, and just some general run game stuff where we weren't maybe blocking it the right way or hitting the right hole or some things like that. But from a game plan perspective, we really didn't go in at halftime and draw up a bunch of new plays or say our game plan wasn't working. We kind of narrowed down the things that we had on the game plan and said, all right, this is how they're defending us. This is what we want to come out in the second half. And a lot of it more was an execution difference in execution than it was anything else.
And Coach, speaking of the offense, let's discuss Bucky Jones Jr. because he came with you from UConn as well. Week 1, a little bit slow, but over these last few weeks, he's really picked it up. And in that game against St. Francis, obviously the late touchdown catch, but I want to look back on what was the big play in that 40-yard bomb he caught after the holding penalty. I mean, what does a guy like that do for your team, someone that's played on the big level, now comes to the FCS level, and is still doing a great job?
And the great thing about Bucky is he has all the physical tools. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He has good hands, runs great routes, and he fits in very well with our team. And in that play right there, they had shown a blitz where they were bringing everybody, and they were covering man to man. And Michael saw that he had a matchup that he liked with Bucky on the corner that was covering him. Bucky ran a great route to run by the guy, and Michael put it in the spot where only Bucky could get it. And Bucky's along with Brian and Sam and the other guys at the receiving corps, they've all kind of chipped in at different times during the season. And that's the great thing about having 3 weapons like that, that if one of the guys gets shut down or is having a bad game, you have 2 other guys, and that's not including Dan Light and CJ as well. So it's good to have a bunch of different weapons to utilize on offense.
Well, you mentioned an offensive weapon, Brian Wetzel. Definitely, he's going to be on the show later today, and he had a great impact, not only receiving but punt returning as well. How big of an impact does he as a punt returner?
It's huge to have a guy like Brian back there, and the thing about him is he's deceptively fast, he's deceptively quick, and the big part is he understands the game of football, and he knows how to set up blocks, he knows how to outrun angles. Wish he could have outrun the last thing there. Not let the punter tackle him, but he ended up getting it on the back end and got a touchdown reception. So, Brian's a tremendous player. Obviously, he's a returning All-Patriot League player and All-American, and he's a great asset to the team.
And, Coach, looking at that St. Francis offense, obviously they had a great running attack, but their passing game really wasn't there. Max Woods struggled. What did your defense do that really allowed him to get uncomfortable in the pocket?
I think it's 2 things. When we had a bunch of people in the box committed to stop the run, we really put a lot of pressures on our corners to play man-to-man defense. So Jordan Chapman and Ian Williams were basically manned up on their outside receivers a majority of the game, and when we weren't doing that, we were trying to pressure them and give the quarterback some different looks with blitzes from different angles. So I think the combination of being able to stack the box and play man-to-man, along with bringing pressure and getting to the quarterback with our rush, I think that's what allowed us to prevent the pass game from getting going.
And speaking of Ian Williams, let's take a look at that highlight because Ian made a great play late in that game to get that interception. St. Francis driving down the field here, and Coach, just take us through it. What did Ian do to make this play?
That's a great example there that we brought 6 people under pressure. We were a man-to-man defense. They tried to run a smash corner out to the top, and Ian played over top of the cut and made a break on the ball. And, he's done a great job. He's intercepted a bunch of passes the past few years, and he's a team captain and leader, and it was great to see him be able to get that and close out the game.
And what has his presence meant, not only on the field, but off the field as a leader for this team?
No, Ian's a guy that everyone on the team respects and works very hard academically, does the right thing off the field, and he is a leader by example and vocally on the field as well. He's a fiery guy, gets the guys fired up, and great ambassador to our team.
Coach, thanks so much. You'll be back just a little bit later as we break down the Lehigh game coming up this Saturday. Time now for our X's and O's segment. We got the assistant coach, the offensive line man, Joel Rodriguez. Joel, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate being here.
All right, so a couple sacks for the offensive line in that game. So why don't you just give us an overall assessment of how your guys played on Saturday afternoon?
We played well in spurts. We played well to start the game off. We played well to finish the game off. There was a lull in the middle, I think not just for the offensive line, for the whole offense and the whole team in general, where we kind of got off to an early lead and kind of thought that things were going to be easy. And St. Francis, to their credit, kind of fought back in the game and took the lead and kind of challenged us. And we obviously like the way our kids responded, but we'd like to not make it so close and not be so interesting towards the end of the game, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned challenges. What were some of the challenges your guys faced throughout the course of the game?
Well, there was challenges the whole team faced even before we played the game. Having to sit in a bus for 5.5 hours and travel through, central Pennsylvania and get there and stay an hour away from the stadium and then get there and have it be kind of a different kind of atmosphere than we've been used to playing. Our last away game being at, the Link in Philly, and then going to play at St. Francis.
A little different, right?
A little bit different, yeah, a little different atmospheres. And so we had to kind of create our own energy as a team, and I think we did that early on and late. But again, we didn't do a good job in the middle right there.
All right, Coach, a couple big plays in that game. Let's take a look at the first one here when Michael Neiberg got his scramble on, found to Bucky Jones Jr. in the back of the end zone. But the offensive line, a little breakdown there. Let's take a look at that clip right now.
Definitely, yeah. It was great job by Michael getting us in the right protection, and for the most part, everyone did a great job. We actually coached this up for a right tackle to miss the defensive end to challenge Michael to scramble around, throw on the run. So we really like Michael to show us what a good athlete he really is, and unfortunately, our guys do that sometimes.
And Coach, a lot of big guys up there for St. Francis. They were doing some stunting. How long do you think it really took the O-line to get comfortable with what they were facing against the Red Flash?
I think the biggest thing it was for us was we had to prove we could handle all their different pressures and different. They showed a couple different things that they hadn't shown on film from a pressure standpoint. Different guys coming from different places, and until we were able to kind of diagnose in the sidelines and kind of get it situated and prove to them that we can handle it, and then they stopped doing it. And then once that was not an answer for them, they really didn't have another answer, to be honest with you. So, but every team, when you're a top 15 team and you've proven to be explosive in offense, and you have some weapons we have, teams are going to defend you differently from week to week than what they show, because a lot of times what they do in their base defense won't defend what you do in your base offense. So that's something it shows that we're doing some good things on offense, and we're forcing the defensive coaches to change and adapt their game plans a little bit, which is good.
You have a bunch of guys on your offensive line, Mason Halter, one, Matt Stolte, and other very versatile guys. What kind of a luxury is that to have these guys that can play a bunch of different positions?
It's a huge luxury because, really nowhere in the country, even at Alabama or LSU, are you going to have 10 guys that can play in a game just because of depth, injuries, things happen. We've had 2 guys just during training camp that had career-ending injuries, So when you're limited with scholarships and numbers, you have to have guys that are versatile enough that can play multiple spots. So we only travel 7 or 8 linemen a game. So we'll have our starting 5, and then we'll have a guy like Matt Stoll that can play essentially anywhere but center, And then we got some young guys that can step up and play. Kyle Vaughn plays centers for us, but he also plays guard. He also plays tackle, So those backup guys, it's very similar to an NFL mentality where you only have 8 or 9 guys on the roster that travel and are active. And if you're not one of the top 5 guys, you got to be able to move around a little bit and play to help us out in different spots.
Coach, we saw a couple of all-Patriot Leaguers last year with Watkins and Morrison. Do you think we'll see a couple more this year? Are you happy with the way the guys have been playing so far?
Yeah, I think they're progressing well. Mason Halter has played really well. Obviously, he missed the game against Columbia. He was sick all week long, and that kind of stunted his growth a little bit. One of the guys that's probably surprised everyone around here is a guy like Tom Fisher. Fisher didn't play a bunch before we got here as a staff. He moved around positions, didn't play very much last year. I'm sure that was frustrating for him. But to his credit, he worked his tail off in the offseason, had a great spring, had a great summer, and he's probably playing as well as anyone in our room right now. So I think, guys like, all 5 of our guys that are starting have all conference potential. Whether or not they get the votes or not, sometimes that's a political thing. Sometimes it's a longevity thing, But I think all those guys have the potential to be all conference players.
One of the guys we haven't mentioned yet, Joe Massara. He's been a center, the anchor of that line all year. How valuable is he to this line?
Hugely. He's probably one of the only guys we have on our team that can snap the ball consistently. You know, Kyle Vaughn being a converted center. You know, so Joe's very valuable. He does a great job making line calls for us, getting us in the right calls. You know, when our quarterback changes our protection, he makes sure that it's set properly and everything. So a lot of pressure is put on him from a mental standpoint. Center's probably the easiest of all the spots to play in our offense from a physical standpoint, but it's probably the hardest from a mental standpoint. And Joe has really embraced that part of the game and done well so far. And it's replacing some pretty big shoes from a leadership standpoint, losing Watkins last year.
Coach, let's now look ahead to Lehigh. Battle of two top 15 teams going on here this weekend. Played them last year, lost to them close. What are you expecting between these two, between the trenches? And what did you learn last year after just falling short?
I think this is going to be, and we talked to our guys, and it's kind of a term we've used. It's going to be a fist fight in a phone booth. They know exactly what we're going to do offensively. We're going to run our base offense. We're going to run our base run offense. They pride themselves in stopping the run. We pride ourselves in running the football to set up the play action pass down the field. And last year we probably threw the ball better than we expected to. Did not run the ball as well as we needed to. I think they held us to 100 yards rushing last year, which for us is a down game. So now they've graduated a bunch of guys on defense, almost the entire front seven. So have we, though. To be honest with me, we're breaking a bunch of new starters as well. So it's going to be a great challenge for us. You know, we're looking forward to a great environment from our home, you know, our home fans, and these guys deserve it. And this is what college football is all about. You know, if there was a college game day for FCS football, it'd be here this weekend. You know, and of course we'll be running around and Herbie and those guys. And
get the ram head.
Without question, without question. So this is it's a great opportunity for our players and for our program to show what we're about and on a national stage, really.
Coach Rodriguez, thanks so much for joining us. The pride of the University of Miami right here, folks. Thanks so much, Coach.
Thanks, appreciate you guys.
All right, coming up next, time to go inside the huddle with two of Fordham's finest right now. I feel slow and we're not even moving. We got Brian Wetzel here to Bucky Jones Jr. Guys, great win on Saturday, 38-20. Brian, let's start off with you. It was a little dicey in that fourth quarter. What did you guys do that ultimately helped to get over the top?
I think we just came out in the second half. We made a few adjustments at halftime, and Coach kind of laid into us about not giving full effort on every single play. And the second half we came out, when they took the lead, we knew that we needed to get things going a little bit. And we stepped up, and we played like each play was the last play that we could ever play. And I think that's what we needed to do the whole game, and it was good to get a win.
And to Bucky, for you, the offense was a little stagnant early on in the game. You and Michael Neiberg finally got going in that fourth quarter. In your mind, what was the key to success?
Basically, the key was just coming out with that fire. Like in the first half, we didn't come out real consistent. We didn't come out like we wanted to win the game, but we made a lot of halftime adjustments, and we came out like Brian said, like playing every play like it was the last play we were going to play. And we came together as a team and just executed our assignments good, and then we went out and did what we had to do.
Now, your touchdown catch late in that game, you kind of snuck through the defense. I don't know how you got open, but let's take a look at that play now, because Michael Neiberg was all under pressure there. You got free, so just remember that play for us and talk to us about what happened.
All right. Well, basically, they went to a cover 2 look, and they were consistently playing cover 2 throughout the whole game. We had a vertical play called, so I felt like I just snuck behind the cornerback, and I seen that the safety was in, and our lineman did a good job prolonging the play, and Neiberg did a good job rolling out and escaping the pressure, and he just found me in the back of the end zone, and successfully I was open. So.
And that wasn't your only big play. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, Brian, let's come to you here, because you had a big punt return in that game, but you couldn't beat the punter. So let's go to the video. Let's take us through that play, because it looked like you were going to go free. I thought you had the touchdown, but all of a sudden at the last moment, punter got to you. I mean, what gives it that, man?
Well, first of all, he was the backup quarterback. He's pretty athletic,
oh,
so
okay,
I want to throw that out there. But, no, Coach Slutsky, the special teams coach, always talks about beating the first guy and beating the last guy, which is the punter, and I didn't get that done. I shouldn't have been tackled by him, but luckily it set up a score, which is good.
And, of course, you're the one that finished off that score. You get to take a little bit of a breather, collect yourself, get over getting tackled by the punter, but then you come back on the field, and let's take a look at this play now. As you go in for a nice, easy slant, what allowed you to get so open on that one?
This is just a man beater, and they played cover 0, which is man down the goal line, and we know as receivers we were supposed to beat if it's man on. We don't think that anybody can cover us. And I went out and I ran the route that I was supposed to. And I knew Neiberg was going to get me the ball, and it felt really good getting in after.
Right?
Yeah, I was a little mad at myself for not getting in on the punt return, but felt really good.
Yeah, certainly so after getting tackled there. All right, to Bucky, your play earlier on in the fourth quarter, it was a 3rd down and long. Penalty pushes you guys back. All of a sudden, you're inside your own 15, and then you decide to go deep. So why don't we roll the tape here, take a look at what we got going. Neiberg shows off the gun. He goes to you all the way down the field. So how'd you get so open?
I mean, surprisingly, they played cover 0 during that period, and they usually play cover 0 when we were close to the goal line. And our coaches did a great job setting us up with the right play. So the corners were sitting a lot at our routes throughout the game, and when Neiberg hiked the ball, I just felt like I could blow by my guys, so I ran as fast as I could. And I blew by him, and I got it open, and Neiberg put the ball in a good spot and went up and made the play.
All right, guys, let's now start to talk about Saturday afternoon. You're a top 15 team. 2 years ago, this is a 1-win team. So, Brian, let's start out with you. Lehigh's coming to your place. The Mountain Hawks have had a couple late comebacks this year. What's it going to take down this team? Because you played them close last year, but this is a totally different team. So how will you use the home crowd to really fuel you on Saturday?
Well, it's going to be big for the home crowd. 2 undefeated teams coming in, 2 top 15 teams. We expect the place to be packed. And we were so close last year to beating them. They were ranked higher than us last year. And I feel like if we come out, execute the plays like we're supposed to, play every play like it's our last, like we did the second half last game, that we should have a good chance.
And to Bucky, you've played in a lot of big games coming from UConn. How will you use that FBS experience in a big game in the FCS here?
Well, it doesn't matter if it's Division 1A or D1 AA. I go into every game the same, but I know Lehigh is really a respectable opponent. They're coming in undefeated, ranked top 15, and I know the atmosphere around campus is big, and all of us are excited to practice this week and go out, and we're just going to be focused, and I'm ready to go get this win with my teammates.
Folks, these are 2 of the best in the FCS. I'm just happy I don't have to play defense against them, that's for sure. Brian Wetzel to Bucky Jones Jr. Guys, thanks so much for letting us go inside the huddle. Coming up next, we talk more about this Lehigh game with the head football coach, Joe Moorhead. Coach, big game on Saturday, 2 top 15 teams right here in the Bronx. What are you expecting from this Mountain Hawk squad that's had a lot of comebacks in the second half this season?
I expect it to be a great football game, like you said, between 2 top 15 ranked teams in the Patriot League. It's our Patriot League opener. Expecting another great crowd, hopefully another sellout like we had against, to follow up the one we had against Columbia. And, obviously we have a tremendous amount of respect for Lehigh. They're an excellent team. They've kind of been the standard bearer of Patriot League football excellence for a long time, and they've done a great job this season, and the coaching staff does a great job. They have a bunch of very skilled players, so it's going to definitely be a challenge.
And you mentioned it, that Lehigh definitely a high-powered offense. Brandon Bialkowski is their quarterback, well-accomplished quarterback in FCS. What kind of challenges does he propose to your defense?
That's going to be a huge challenge. I mean, I believe he hadn't, thrown a pass until this season. He's a first-year senior starter, and Coach Cicchini's their offensive coordinator, played receiver at Lehigh, does an excellent job with their offense, and I believe he's thrown for almost 400 yards a game. So when you're doing that, you got to have great pass protection, and their O-line does a great job protecting them, mixing up the launch points, and they have the receiver Kerfis and the other kid Soto, and I believe Kerfis is one of the top receivers in the league in the country. So we're going to have to be on top of it defensively, and they also run the ball. The Sherman kid runs it well, so you can't focus on just the run or just the pass. You've got to really do a great job defending both.
Coach, last year's squad goes all the way down to the wire with Lehigh. Will you remind the guys again about that? Obviously, it's a different team, but does that give your squad a little bit more confidence going into this one?
Yeah, we've talked about it, and kind of the focal point of our season is, we talked about extra effort and, what we need to do to bridge the gap between the 8 points of our 3 combined league losses last year, and particularly the one to Lehigh, which was the field goal as time expired. So we talked about what do we need to do this week with our preparation, our effort, and our execution to bridge the gap between those 3 points and, turn a loss into a win. But, I'm confident we'll have a great week of preparation. The kids will go out and play hard. It'll just be, at the end of the day, the emotional wear off after a series or 2, and you fall back on how well you've prepared and how well you execute your scheme. So that'll determine the game.
Do you sense a big difference heading into this game as opposed to the game that you guys headed into last year?
A little bit in a sense. Last year we were still a little bit of an unknown commodity. We had some success, and Lehigh was an early game, and we came out and played well. This year we've had some more success early in the season, defeated, a top 10 FCS team and an FBS team, and coming off of another win. So, we tell our kids to expect success, and it was the same thing last year and the same thing this year. So, that it's not enough to want to win. You got to want to prepare to win, and that'll determine how well we do.
And Coach, going into this week of practice, what are some of the biggest things you're going to work on, looking to perfect, make sure you have them all set up for Saturday?
No, we have to work on everything. We just, like you said, on defense, we have to be prepared to stop the pass with all their dangerous weapons and still be mindful of the run game. And, you know, defensively, they bring a lot of different looks, 3 down front, 4 down front, a variety of coverages and pressures, and, you know, really make you be on point with your pass protection and your run blocking schemes and making sure everyone's accounted for. So, and special teams-wise, they do a great job as well. So it's going to be a complete challenge in all 3 phases of the game. It really will.
And Coach, certainly the Patriot League isn't an option this year with the ineligibility, but still to do well in the Patriot League, what would that mean to your squad to get things off to the right foot?
No, we want to be 1-0 this week, and that's all we're worried about. Obviously, you know, having the best record in the Patriot League, you know, regardless of whether we can have the automatic bid or not, is something that we focus on, you know, on a yearly basis. But you know, we want our kids to have, you know, focus on the task at hand with singleness of purpose, and, you know, all we're worried about this week is going 1-0 against Lehigh, and go from there.
All right, Coach, thanks so much. Best of luck. Game's right here in the Bronx, Jack Coffey Field. It's a noon start, and it should be a good one, so thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, that will do it for all of us here on Monday Night Quarterback. I'd like to thank the head coach, Joe Moorhead, the players that joined us, Brian Wetzel to Bucky Jones Jr., and the offensive line coach, Joel Rodriguez. For all of us here from WFUV Sports, my partner in crime, Nick Legerifo, this is DJ Sixman. Have a great evening, everybody.